Hello everyone, Krydax here, and welcome back to RP-1. I'm really excited about today's episode because, I don't know, I just am. I'm loving RP-1. I mean, we're gonna do some cool stuff, but, I mean, we always do cool stuff because it's freaking real-ish space program, you know? And that's just really fun. So anyway, we are 20% of the way done with our science here. We have 80 days to go. And what we were kind of trying to figure out is, are there any contracts I can do before that 80 days is up? And I think, you know, let me check on something real quick. Okay, sorry. So basically what's happened here is I decided to take the navigation network contract, and I don't remember how much we talked about this in the last episode. The essence of what happened is I recorded a 1-hour episode, and I've decided to delete that from existence because it was very boring, because it was me fighting with and exploring with MechJeb PVG for an hour straight on this craft that I designed, because I was trying to figure out how to get RCS and coasting stages and all that sort of thing to work. So I spent quite a bit of time even after that hour video tinkering. So I just decided to save you guys the the headache, because I didn't do too much design work. And I don't remember if we talked about this contract in the last episode or not. But basically, these navigation network contracts, there was one for 3 and one for 4, and you can kind of decide which one you want to do. And then there's also this one, which would just be a tiny... I mean, this is such a small amount. Oh, no, this is a pretty bad reward. I'm just not going to lie. That's a pretty bad reward. Especially needing 110 units at... not the easiest orbit, you know, 370 by 630 at polar nonetheless, so that's another 400 delta V. So yeah, that's a weirdly bad reward compared to all the other rewards of contracts these days. I wonder if that needs a tweak. I guess after another 90 days, it'll give me more reward, but even then, I would probably only do this once that hits 50, and that's not going to be anytime soon. So... anywhoosies, this contract requires a polar orbit, and the APO is above 700,000 meters, which is a lot, right? And very low eccentricity. So what I've designed is a craft that can accomplish this without needing full avionics control. And it's between the 3 and 4. I mean, they're basically the same contract. The 4 network one just requires you to do 4 launches, and you get 252. I need the money, so I figure 4 launches is better. We'll see if we have the time to do it. Maybe that's a bad decision, but I figure it's worth it. So let's kind of get into what we designed for this. So thing number 1 is, you know, it's more Navsat stuff. And so we have to put the Navsat payload of 80 units on the craft. So I went ahead and grabbed the Carpenter 4, which had the initial Navsat, and then we just made a Carpenter 5. Really no changes to the lower stages, more or less. The main change is that I put RCS on this one, and we, where's the open button? Can never find it. And the RCS tank is right here, and it's a really small amount. It might even be too much still, to be honest, but that way this stage can coast if we want it to. Then I worked on designing the upper part a little bit, and we'll get into what we did here, but you know, normally we had 2 stages here, but the problem is we need a very high orbit, right? Above 700 kilometers. And so what I had to do is figure out, how can I design a thing that actually uses a Hohmann transfer? Because what we've been doing is we've just been inserting into a circular orbit. And I mean, when you try to insert into a circular orbit at 750 kilometers or whatever, it is not easy. You need a lot of extra delta V for that. It's very inefficient. So instead, we're going to insert into a 145 kilometer orbit with a little bit of extra speed, so it'll be inserting into 145 by 750, and then we wait an hour until we get to the 750, and then we trigger the last stage to bump us into a circular orbit. What I initially was wanting to do was design the craft so that it had full control, near Earth avionics, all the way to the top here. This stage right here had some RCS, and then it had a little baby aerobie and tank on it. Just enough, it had the 168 delta V calculated, I'll get to that in a moment, for the final circularization. But the problem is, this stage is spin stabilized, and so what I was having to do, because it's spin stabilized and it was in the wrong direction, we'd end up at the apoapsis and we'd have to, you know, spin a bunch of RCS to stop spinning, turn around, and then thrust, and it was just a mess. And then you might be like, well, if you put the motors on the nose, and it's crazy to me that this works, but it makes sense. If you imagine your, you know, your orbit as a circle, because it kind of is, I mean, it's an ellipse, right? And you start here, and you're facing prograde. If you spin stabilize prograde right here, you'll get to the other side of your elliptical orbit over here, and you'll still be facing up and spinning. And so if your motors are now on the top of your craft, and you fire them off, they'll push you backwards, which is prograde, and you'll have a circular orbit. Crazy how that works. You know, it's what they've done in real life on a few launches, apparently, and it makes a lot of sense. And that requires you, or I would say that means you don't need to actually have attitude control. So you can use a science core probe to be able to do that. And that's the real nice part, is that you don't need to worry about RCS on this final stage, and you don't need to worry about being able to turn it. So, you know, this stage allows us to spin stabilize, or get in the proper orientation, and then we spin stabilize and launch this one to get us into our elliptical orbit, and then we decouple that, and now this thing is spinning, it's facing up, it gets to the 750 kilometers, and then we fire these motors. And I just went with basic separation motors. We probably could have been a little bit more efficient. Maybe, I don't know if these are the best ones to use. They're ISP. I've been told nobody says it like ISP, so I'm going to stop saying ISP. We can either say specific impulse or ISP. Anyway, their ISP is 225, and that's not amazing, but they do have a... where is it? Well, it doesn't even show it, I don't think, but they do have a 100%, I think, ignition chance. I think that's why it doesn't show it. Test flight doesn't even show anything for this, because it's perfectly consistent. It does have residuals, and because of that, we're gonna get a little bit of imbalance thrust, but we're already spinning at that point, and I even gave them a tiny bit of angle so they add to the spin. And their thrust limiter is down so they burn over the course of 3 seconds, which distributes the inconsistencies, you know, further around, so that way we don't get as much torque. So anyway, that is the plan. Now, how did I get this 168 delta V number? Because you'll notice I have a very specific amount of fuel in these. And the way that I got that number is I have a spreadsheet. I might share it in the comments if anybody's curious. It's not really made for other people, so it's kind of a mess, but I know where all the numbers are that I want, so it works for me. But basically, it just does the orbital calculations of a few different things. And in this case, I calculated if you have a 145 kilometer by 750 kilometer orbit, how much delta V do you have to add at the apoapsis here to circularize? And that answer is 167.8 meters per second delta V. So 168 is perfect as long as it's pointed in the right direction. And yeah, this is the probe, and it doesn't need to have anything else, right? We just, like, it doesn't need to have solar panels, it doesn't need to have communication even. I mean, we have communication, but it doesn't need to have more. Once it's in the orbit, we're done. Doesn't need to do anything else. So that's great, and I don't have to do anything else with that. The launch vehicle is a little iffy. It just barely makes it. So I'm not digging it, but it does work. And our staging here, I mean, do we even need the RCS anymore? I guess if we want to do a coast, I've found that a little bit of coasting can be helpful because it increases the accuracy. It seems like MechJeb does a little bit of a better job of getting me in the proper orbit with a coast stage. So we'll simulate this real quick just to make sure it's all working properly, but I'm pretty sure this guy right here is what we need. And if it's tooled, it's only a 30-day integration, and it's only it's less than 10 grand per launch total. And we're gonna get 200 reputation out of this or whatever, which is well over 100 grand worth of money in the long run. So this contract will pay for itself, and it's required anyway. So at least I think it was required, right? But yeah, our avionics near Earth. Oh, hold on, that's not upgraded. Wait a second. This is still in 2 when it could be in 3, and we could save ourselves 70 kilograms on that. Let's just look at our delta V. 9671. That gives us another 40 delta V. Our tooling cost goes up by only 500. And then if we are tooled, it's 2069 versus 2040. It's 29 more funds. I don't know if I need the extra delta V, but I might on the next launch. So since we have to tool it anyway, I might as well take this. And we should probably put enough power in here for it to run. So what, it needs like 5 minutes, 300 seconds of that. If we add a 0, that's 3 kilojoules, 30 kilojoules, so like 40 kilojoules is probably, or 50 is enough. Okay. All right, well, let's simulate this bad boy. I feel like I probably staged something wrong. Couple and spin. Stage the aerobie afterwards. I think we're okay. The first stage does get us high enough to stage the fairings. And I guess the next thing to look at is, do we actually need the fairings to be this tall? Because it was taller before. Yeah, we don't need them to quite be as tall as they were. I think it's poking through right there, so let's go one more. All right, save, light satellite program, simulate. I had a couple successful simulations with this, but let's see if we get another one. And if we do, I think that means I'm happy with the consistency of it. So there's a lot of quirks with MechJeb PVG. You guys know this already, but the basics here is that our last stage is going to be 2, because stage 0 is the circularization one that we do ourselves. We are going to do early shutoff on stage 2 so that it will shut down, you know, this final stage when it's gotten enough delta V. Technically, I should also be able to do the early shutoff stage on stage 4 here, but it hasn't seemed to work as well because of that being the coast stage. So I'm going to do a fixed coast length, or I could even let it figure out the coast length. Let's see what it maths itself out to. See, it thinks 105 seconds of coast is reasonable. It feels a little long. So I'm just going to give it a 30-second coast. And then the ullage lead time will go 15 seconds. That should be enough to settle the aerobies. And I believe the 0.7 is decent. We can always change that. Inclination is 90, which is important because the inclination we need here is between 88 and 92. So I could maybe save myself a couple delta V by making that 89, but I'd rather go with a bit more margin on the inclination. So this should all be good to go. Let's go ahead and hit the launch button. 3, 2, 1. Launch. And then this is a pretty boring stage. Don't even have boosters. Oh, I need to rotate the whole thing again. So yeah, we're just, you know, waiting. It'll pop the fairings at 65 kilometers here. Which happens right about now. Close out of here. Ooh, just in time. I might need to, change that a little bit. And this is telling me I only have 38.5 spare delta V. So that's not as much as I thought we were gonna have. That's cutting it pretty close. Maybe I do need to go to 89 degrees inclination and let it have a longer coast stage. So check out how this coast stage works. It's pretty neat. So it'll burn the rest of this stage, and then it'll activate RCS, and it'll point the direction that it wants to point. And we can see our nitrogen here, which is the fuel for the RCS. Oop, we just got to space. You can tell it auto-deployed this thing. Okay. So now it's happy with the direction we're pointing. And then the ullage should start. There we go. And that should make sure that these are settled and stable. I mean, I guess we didn't need 15 seconds, but... And then it's going to stage. Spin and launch. I don't like the wobble. It's a little more wobble than I'd like, and I don't know where that's coming from. I actually seem incapable of fixing that, because these spin motors are, as far as I can tell, perfectly balanced around the center of mass. So the fact that they introduce a wobble doesn't make sense, because even if I only had one spin motor, it should make, I think, a wobble-free spin. But maybe it had, I don't know, maybe it doesn't. Maybe I don't get the physics. Maybe because it's like twisting and pushing sideways at the same time. I don't know. Something's weird there. And boom. Final orbit 144.7, 744.2, which is very close to exactly what we wanted, especially given this last stage was unguided. So now what we do is we separate. I mean, I guess we could separate later, but it's kind of fun to separate now. I like that they both keep spinning. It's cool to look at. It looks like a little robot with little stubby arms and stubby legs. He's missing his head though, but... Okay, so then what we do now is we will just time warp to our apoapsis. And that's easy enough to do here. I'm just watching this time up here from Kerbal Engineer. I will stop a little bit early, and that's because it doesn't always end with me facing perfectly prograde, which means when I get to the apoapsis, I'm not always facing perfectly retrograde, if that makes sense. So, depending on... what am I trying to say? basically we want to be pointing retrograde at apoapsis. And remember, pointing retrograde is facing prograde because these engines are backwards. And so if I were to fire them right now, they would actually be reducing my vertical speed. Not increasing it. It looks like it would increase it because I'm facing above the horizon, but the engines are therefore facing below the horizon. So you definitely want to keep note of that. In this case, I think we can just fire them exactly at apoapsis here. So I'll warp forward to that. It looks like we're still a little bit above the horizon, but we still have vertical speed, so that's totally fine. All right, we'll just get to about 20 seconds here. So now it's looking like things are just about right, so I'll just go ahead and do it. And that's it. And we end with a final eccentricity of 001, which is well within the tolerance. The requirement for this contract is 004 eccentricity. And we're well above the 700 kilometers. And that's it. That's a success. And you can see here, vessel. So this is one vessel done, and I just need to launch 4 of these. So pretty excited about this, actually. You know, it's going to make us a lot of money over time, too. And even though it's going to cost us a decent amount of money, it's also important to remember that we will be getting, you know, if we look at the mid-satellites, we'll be getting a bunch more efficiency out of this. So that will help make future launches at this complex cheaper, right? And we're also getting, well, no, I guess that's pretty much it. Because the reputation is just money at the end of the day, when you think about it. But how much reputation was it? It was a lot, right? All right, well, let's tool this. And then let's go ahead and launch. Crazy. All right. Being built. Oh, and we should, well, I don't want to add it to plans because maybe you can rename it before you build it if you add something to plans. I'm not sure. But we're going to want to name it B, C, and D. So that they have unique names. But yeah, how much was this again? They're gonna pay us $252. Interesting. And the math of that was, shoot, I forgot. Let me pull it up real quick. The math of that is in year 1. By the end of year 10, they will have paid out about 500 funds per reputation. By the end of 5 years, they'll have only paid out, and by they, I mean the subsidy, they'll have paid out about 350. Okay. And 2 years is only 171. Okay. So if you're needing money, like, quick, you're not gonna see too much, but yeah, by the end of 5 years, 350. By the end of 10 years, 500 per. So if you just add 3 zeros and then cut it in half, there's about 125 grand after 10 years. Okay. Good to know. And this is required anyway. Sweet. Okay, well, let's go ahead and warp. I do want to write down. We're gonna use all sorts of notes. Notes in the grand plan. So our current build time is 31 and 4. 31 days, 4 hours. I'm just curious how much faster the next one will build. So we're gonna go ahead and warp here. Perfect. Roll out. And then I'm immediately going to add, oop, that's not the button. How do I, is there a way? Duplicate? Rename. Perfect. Okay. The next one only takes 30 days and will round to 8 hours. Almost a full day faster. The efficiency is growing. All right, let's warp to sunrise just because I like to see the light of day. And we'll go ahead and launch this bad boy. Oh boy. I always get so, like, not jittery, but, you know, a little nervous with these launches. It's a real thing. There are real consequences if this fails. All right, we'll quick save. We'll go ahead and pull up our ascent guidance. PVG settings. 2 coast 4. Everything is correct. Everything here is correct. 90. All the Q trigger stuff is fine. Booster pitch over. It's a little bit iffy. We're staging the fairings right at the end, which is a little scary because I'm not sure what'll happen if we weren't. I'm gonna lower this to 6.5. What that will do is it will make a slightly less efficient launch pattern because it'll go more up sooner, but that should get us to 65 kilometers a bit faster. I could also just lower the height at which I pop the fairings. That's probably a better idea. I'll probably lose less over that. We'll go to like 63 kilometers. And I'll change that to 6.8. Couple tiny tweaks just to make sure the fairings get popped on time. All right, here we go. We have liftoff in 3, 2, 1. Well, I guess we have ignition. Liftoff is a couple seconds later. There we go. Beautiful morning launch here with the sun rising in the east. Let's see how this goes. I mean, chance for failure is still pretty decent. Let's make sure. Yeah. We have the Navsat payloads. Everything else is just orbit. Okay. Just wanted to make sure we've got the right contract stuff. Still no engine failures. And we'll fast forward a bit here. Fast forward a bit more. Alright, yeah, we're a bit more comfortable on the fairings now. 5 seconds before stage. Okay, and we are away on the next one. Let's see, what do you got going on here? Your MTBF is 17 minutes. So we have basically a 2 out of 17 chance to fail at some point. But so far, so good. Alright, fast forward this. No failures, no failures, no failures. Alright. Take a screenshot. RCS is going. Only has to slightly change our angle because the coast is pretty short. Things seem fine. Aerobies are settled. There we go. You know what? I wonder if the spin is coming from the aerobies are not starting at the same moment. But even then, they're pointed at the center of mass, so they shouldn't be inducing a torque either. So that shouldn't really be it. I don't know what the problem is. I don't know what the problem is, to be honest. I don't know where this wobble comes from, but it seems unavoidable. Because, yeah, the aerobies are pointed at the center of mass, so they shouldn't really... I mean... Yeah, that shouldn't mess anything up. I don't really know what's causing it. No failures, though. Failures is good failures. And we are in orbit. A little bit less than advertised. 746, but that's okay. I wonder why that is. I mean, it's very close. I shouldn't complain. Alright, so stage. And then at this point, we can quick save again. We'll go ahead and fast forward to our EPO. Oh, by the way, we don't need probe control to stage, which is another reason this is nice. Because if we wanted to actually aim the probe, we would need probe control. Though I don't know, I guess I need to find out. Does the smart ass, does that require probe control? I should look into that. If you're using it or not, I'm not really sure. All right, so here we've got a couple more minutes to go here. Okay. We're basically good to go. I'll give it another couple seconds here. All right, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. And perfect. 745 by 757. Love it. I ended with a slightly negative vertical speed, which is fine. And that should be our first Navsat into orbit. Perfect. Successful launch 1. And now we're already working on building the next one. So we'll warp. And warp. And now we need to build another one. Duplicate. Rename. C. And that one has a build time of 29 days and 15 hours. We're just getting more efficient all the time. All right. Roll out Navsat B. Now, where is Navsat A? Also, I should probably delete a few of these. Like Fire Ant 1 probably should just be deleted. All right. Navsat A is currently... What happened to the icons? What? What? What's going on here? Weird glitch. but okay. None of the... Is this a click-through blocker thing? No, the icons are just gone. Super weird. But it's right here. So I did confirm with people on the Discord that you don't actually have to space them out. The contract specifies, make sure the satellites are spread around the Earth to provide reasonable coverage. But you don't actually have to do that. That's not actually technically part of it. All right, Navsat B, here we go. Any failures? Hopefully no failures. 2, 2, 2, 4. Engage. 3, 2, 1, launch. Just gonna hyper warp all day here. I forgot to quick save. I'll quick save now. Hyper warp. And then slow it down. I tried to turn off hyper warp. Failed apparently. Why did it turn on RCS this time? That didn't happen last time. Weird. I wonder if that had to do with hyperwarp. Probably did. It is still solving for the orbit though, so we're okay. Alright, no failures yet. Here comes the end of burn 4. Hyperwarp this. Here comes burn 2. Alright, hyperwarp that. Good to go. $144 by $744. Decouple. Go ahead and circle back around to the Apo. 23 minutes, 13 minutes, 2, 1, and basically there. Oh yeah, I think I need to fire it now, actually. Oof. Yeah, 0.002. This was a little bit less circular. So we ended with positive vertical speed, and that's because I was facing down into the horizon, even though I wasn't at my apoapsis yet. So that just means like my final pointing direction that I was spinning around wasn't quite prograde when we got our elliptical orbit. But that should have a second one now. There we go. Carpenter Ant 5, Navsat B. Sweet. Oh boy. We're gonna have all the reputation. All right, and then now we are gonna finish Spaceflight Era Science before we get this one done. That's okay. We'll just go ahead and complete this we'll keep warping till this contract's done. I'm hoping what doesn't happen is a failure. Chernikov detector, infrared radiometer. Oh, we can put these in. Right, we can put those in avionics now. We don't have to put them as a separate part. Right. I keep forgetting that. When we unlock the parts, it also unlocks putting them in avionics, which is cheaper, I think. And is it also lighter or just cheaper? I can't remember. Anyway, warp to complete here. Go ahead and roll it out. We'll duplicate. And then we rename this one to D. And that one's only gonna take 28 days and 20 hours. Okay, launch number 3. I'll go ahead and pause the recording and save you guys the... No, you guys like watching launches. You can skip ahead 2 minutes in the YouTube video if you don't like it. But at this point, you already know the drill. So we're not... No fanfare anymore. We're just hoping for no engine failures. I've gotten lucky with that so far, to be honest. And now we're getting into much better consistency, which I really, really like. Okay. Stage this guy. Everything seems to be nominal. And coast stage. And in 2 seconds. There we go. We have ignition. With a final orbit of 144.6 by 750.4. That's as close as it gets. I mean, if you add up the numbers, it's exactly right. I mean, within a few dozen meters. Perfect. All right. Go ahead and separate you. Get a good screenshot here. For the... I think this will be the thumbnail. And then... You'll notice I'm moving them over to the left because of... I'm realizing, like, oh, I need the craft over on the left side because I'm putting all the blueprint-looking things on the right side. There's also a warp helper in the utilities, or in this. There's a warp helper. So you can be like, oh, I want 60 seconds before apoapsis warp. And it'll get you there. Alright, and in this case, we had a really good launch, so I don't think... Yeah, our vertical speed... I think we can wait the full minute till we get to Apo. Because if we were to fire right now, it would cancel out some vertical speed because we're slightly above the horizon. But what you wouldn't want is to get below the horizon and your vertical speed's negative, because then you're going to double down. Or, well, no, that would actually work too. I don't know, I'll just wait until we're centered around the horizon line with our spinning. Alright, 10 seconds from Apo. Looks like we're basically there. 5, 4, let's go ahead and pull the plug. Perfect. 0.0005. That's our best one yet. All right, 3 vessels are properly into the Navsat network. Cool. Cool. No failed launches either. I think that's actually an extreme stroke of luck. The chance that one of the 4 failed was quite high. So I'm actually very surprised. And I'll be even more surprised if this one doesn't fail. Granted, this particular launch is the most likely to not have a failure, right? Because we've continued gaining data units for all these engines that we're using. So this is the least likely to fail, but at the same time, it's also the 4th of 4, you know, so like, you get what I'm saying. 4 in a row with no failures is pretty lucky. That's all I'm saying. But now we're up to 50 minutes, so there's only a 2 out of 50 chance we lose performance, and then this one is 20.6 minutes. Still not the most consistent. I'm excited for an AJ10 upgrade that has more consistency. All right, let's plug in our parameters here. 2, check, 4, and that's it. Everything else remembers the settings. I don't know why these settings don't get remembered and these do. It's kind of weird. Let's make sure not A, B, or C. All right, 3, 2, 1, ignition. All right, we forgot to hit engage autopilot. That's gonna do it. I will revert to launch for that one. I should also quick save. I keep forgetting to quick save. All right, those should, yeah, they remember. When you revert to launch, these get remembered. They don't get remembered between launches. All right, let's try again. 3, 2, 1, ignition. Off we go. All right. Hyperwarp this bad boy. And we'll slow down at 5 seconds. Hyperwarp this bad boy. Hey, we didn't have a failure. This is the most likely part to fail of the whole launch. There's a very small chance that aerobies fail. Okay. Seems like we did it. And I don't even think these have a chance that they fail. The separation motors, nor the spin motors. Oh, I guess spin motors have a 0.5% to fail to ignite. Interesting. All right. And here we go. Yeah, because it seems like the spin motors get it spinning perfectly with no wobble, and then it's when the aerobies ignite that the wobble gets introduced. So I do think there's some variance in the spool up time or something, and maybe I don't have them perfectly aimed at the center of mass, and so that's creating a little bit of torque because one of them ignites slightly before the other one. I think that's what's happening here to create this wobble. But yeah, we'll hyperwarp this bad boy, and a little bit less accurate. We ended with a little bit extra vertical speed, so that means, what does that mean? Does that mean I need to ignite earlier or later? I'm not sure. We'll find out. Let's go ahead and warp to our hyperlapses here. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Let's see what we're dealing with. So yeah, I think we're gonna need to ignite sooner rather than later. Is that true? Shoot. I'm gonna go slow-mo so I have more time to think. Okay, so right now, when we ignite facing above the horizon, that means we're actually going to lose vertical speed. Which, if we lose vertical speed, that will bring us closer to circularization. If we ignite below the horizon, we will gain vertical speed. So what I'd like is if, obviously, we're at 0 vertical speed when we're pointing at the horizon. So I don't really know. It's definitely not time to ignite yet. But we might need to cancel some of this vertical speed. Because at our apoapsis, the vertical speed will be exactly 0, but I might not be pointing exactly at the horizon, is the thing. So there is a spot somewhere slightly before or after apoapsis where the direction I'm pointing is going to cancel out with our vertical speed a little bit better. And I guess it's hard to know, like, at apoapsis, will I be pointing above or below the horizon slightly? And I guess we just wait until I'm very close and see what we're dealing with. Because right now, it looks like I'm wobbling between like 10 degrees and 5, maybe 3 degrees. Okay. We still need to go a little bit further. This is so crazy. Rocket science is nuts. Okay, I think we're actually pretty close to being able to just burn at Apo, and we'll be okay. Or do I need to burn now? When it's facing exactly... No, we need to take off a tiny bit of vertical speed. So I'm going to ignite... Yeah, I think igniting now is fine. Yeah, that worked out. That worked out nicely. And there we are. 2 minutes for a shakedown test. Ta-da! Contract complete. 252 beautiful reputation points. Oh, it feels so good. I'm gonna be rich. I mean, not really, but it helps. It helps a bit. Yeah, it helps a lot, actually. So, like we said, over the course of 10 years, 252 is going to give us half of 252 grand. So 125 grand over the course of 10 years. I keep clicking that thinking it's going to close the window. That's not how it works. Okay, so next, first of all, what's available? So now we're down to the optional one, which still, this reward seems like utter crap to me. I mean, that's a really bad reward. I feel like that needs to be buffed. Even compared to the other optional ones, like this is 50, you know? That's 18, even when it's more than its nominal value. Okay, so for this one, we've completed the network, and now I need at least 2 of these. But I wonder if those only show up once we have upgraded the tracking station to level 4, which is not cheap. These ones I'm going to be working on soon. I think we'll be able to get this done. We've already got one of them done, so there's really only 3 more. And then lunar probes, we still have 1, 2, 3, 4 years to go. How are we doing with cosmic ray science, by the way? Oh, we're almost there. We've got 8.1 out of 5.7. That's like 2/3-ish of the way done. So that'll probably be done in the next 10 or 20 days. Sweet. So now it's time to design for the infrared radiometry, as they call it. And we've got some new science gadgets. So let's go ahead and open up. Well, what's the orbit that we need? Wait. What? There is no orbit? I just have to have it in space and transmit the data? So we just need a polar orbit and that's it? What's going on here? What? Why are these not showing up in the contract? That's weird. Because here, it very much has requirements for the orbit. Okay. And it's pretty strict requirements. 0.005 eccentricity. So that's basically what we just did. The contracts we just did had an 0.004 eccentricity. So I basically need to do the same thing. But instead of having a sounding payload... Yeah, why does this not have... Oh... Hold on. Did it consider one of the things I just launched to count for this? Oh my gosh, it did. So, if I'm not mistaken, what that means... Also, it says early TV camera. I think there's some mistakes in these contracts, because it says it needs an early TV camera, but in the objectives, it says nothing about having a TV camera. So, I don't think we need a TV camera at all. Like that, maybe that got changed at some point and they didn't change the text. Anyway, what I'm getting at is I think we launched one of these and it satisfied the radiometry orbit. So we've already launched the first weather satellite. So now I just need the data and I could get the data from any orbit. Interesting. It's kind of like cheating, but it's not cheating. All right, well, let's go ahead and save Carpenter Ant 6 radiometry. And now we can mess with this. So we don't need a Navsat, but we do need proper solar panels. When do I get solar panels? Oh, we're not doing that for a while. Okay. So I still need to use our static solar panels here. Interesting. And the radiometry, so let's get our... Has been researched but not purchased. Okay, that's good to know. So, configure experiments. We want you to have... do we want a Chernikov detector? Oh, it needs a minimum eccentricity. Ooh, but I could put eccentricity on this craft because we don't need it to be in the right orbit. That's interesting. But yeah, there's the infrared radiometer, and it does indeed weigh the same amount, but it is cheaper. And it only needs 2.4 watts. And the data size is only 691 kilobytes. And if I do some math on my phone here, where's my phone? Oh, I don't have my phone. If I do some math on my computer here in a browser, we take 691,000 divided by a transmission rate of 32 if we're on UHF, divided by 86,400, which is 1 day's worth. We get... It's only a quarter of a day of transmitting science, so that's very transmittable. What I'm more worried about is orbital perturbation. What is this? 2 watts, 630 megabytes, 9 years of data. We're not going to do that one right now. I think we want a different... better communications for that. I guess what I'm trying to figure out right now is should I also take the Cherenkov detector? Because it's only 5.1 bytes a second, which is only 1/6 of the bandwidth of our UHF communications right now. And if that's true, well, not if that's true. I mean, it is true. And it's only 500 milliwatts. So it feels like I should have that in there too. And the radiometer... Yes, it is 8 bytes a second, which is 64 bits a second, which is double our transmission rate, but it only takes 1 day to gather. I guess that's 10 days for all the biomes, but still. So that's 20 days for transmitting all of that, if I'm connected to something. But if I pull up... What's the distance I could be at if I was in orbit at like 500 kilometers? An eccentricity of 0.04. So I need a polar orbit that's slightly eccentric, meaning I need but solar panels to face towards the sun. Okay, we're figuring this out, don't worry. So butt panels. Let's make this a little skinnier. Well, but I've already tooled the avionics like this, so I kind of just want to use it. Let's do something like this. And then... if those are sort of facing the sun and we spin this last stage, how many watts do we even need? Hold on, I need a chill. This is only 100 milliwatts. The science experiments are, so that's 600 milliwatts and so a total of 3 watts is it? Oh, that's easy. Oh yeah, these are even bigger than we need them to be. And they're only 5 kilograms a piece. Oh man, we are in business. So these can even be smaller. Yeah. So as long as that's facing in the direction of the sun-ish, but it won't be because we're going to be launching north. The sun's going to be here-ish. So we probably want to angle these out a little bit, like that. Yeah, something like this. Oop, a little too close. Something like that, I think, will get us enough sunlight to charge up. Because we're only in sun for half, so if I only have one panel that's actually giving us anything, and it's only at half efficiency because the sun's at a weird angle, we'll still get 8 watts, even after 500 days. So we should be good to go with all of that. And then we need to make sure we have enough power to get through the dark side. 2 megajoules is more than enough, actually. That's like kind of an absurd amount. Yeah, that's like way more than enough. And I even have battery 2 now? What does that do for me? Oh my. Configure. 2000 kilojoules gets me 5.78 kilograms. Whereas if I did battery 1, what does that do? 9 kilograms. Whoa! So we're weighing 23 kilograms, but if I go to battery 2, it only weighs 19 kilograms? Gosh, this thing weighs nothing. This is awesome. Definitely need this antenna to go the other way. Never hit the right button here. Okay, and then the antenna, we need to be able to reach... Oh, I forgot about the wattage for the antenna. Crap. Now, it is only going to be transmitting some percentage of the time. But if it's transmitting constantly, which it will be for the first 10 days, 20 days. Yeah, we kind of want it to be able to transmit constantly. And then we also want it to be able to reach at an angle. So what I have to do now, let's see if I can open up GeoGebra here. So, sorry, I don't have... I should figure out how to get this pulled up, but basically I'm going to make a circle and another circle, and I'm going to make... I can measure the distance of circle 1 and measure the distance of circle 2. And then what I do with that is I make the first one the radius of the Earth, which is in km, which is 6378. 6376, close enough. And then the C point, I go to like be higher. So if we're going to be in a radius of about 500 kilometers, then this is going to be 6878. And then I look at the tangent from that. Again, maybe I can put this on the screen at some point. And then I add a point to that, and then I measure the distance. Because basically what I'm getting at is how far away could an antenna even be from any specific point on the planet that it could see from its point in orbit. And the answer is 2.5 million meters. So, as long as this thing, and it's going to be at tech level 1, which takes less wattage. Alright, let me save this thing real quick. Let's go research that tech level, just so we can have that done. But yeah, 2.5 million meters is going to be the distance that I want to be able to transmit science from. And then we're going to know that we can transmit science pretty much continually as long as we're seeing any station. So yeah, we researched this now. So comms tech level 1. Purchase that. And we already purchased the solar panel tech level and RCS tech level and fairing tech level we've purchased. I just want to make sure all the purchased tech level-y things we have paid for and we're not lacking anything. And you don't have to buy the avionics ones because those get tooled. Okay. So anyway, back to this. 2.5 million meters. Do you guys like this kind of planning? I love this kind of planning. This is just so fun. I love this game. All right, so get that out of the way. So you need to be configured for any of these other just random tracking stations at 2,500 kilometers, and you're saying no connection. That's bad. That means we need to be more powerful. So it looks like if I go up to 30 dBm, we've got 8 bits. 35 dBm, but that's 60 watts when we're transmitting. I feel like from a power perspective, we need to keep it at like 32 dBm. Let's try that. And then we get 30 watts when it's active. And it's probably going to be active about 50% of the time, just because of we're not going to be in constant contact. So if it's active 50% of the time, I need an extra 15 watts. Plus 3 is 18 watts. So I want... But we only see the sun half the time. And the angle might be bad. So 18 times 4 is 72. So I need 72 actual wattage of solar panel to sustain the transmission rate that we want. And so 72 does require these to be a little bigger. So that should do what we want. And then this little guy needs to be elongated. And you need to be angled out. And that little thing should collect the science that we need. It's crazy, because it only weighs 27 kilograms. All right. And then what? We need... Do we need anything else? I think that's it, right? We just need to get it into the correct orbit is all. Which needs to have polar. It just has to be a polar orbit. No, sorry. One of the science experiments needs a certain orbit. The radiometry does not, but the Cherenkov does. We need eccentricity of 0.04. But even that is the only requirement. So... So we've got this thing. The fairings where they're supposed to be. The other stages... Oop. That's not where they're supposed to be. The other stages are correct. Spin stage. Oh, let's try to get... Let's try to get these aligned properly this time. So, how do we, what's the best way to do this? So I think what I can do is do engines. Symmetric auto cutoff. I don't know what that means. You think that's screwed me up here? You'd think it would help not screw me up. But what we want is to actually disable those. It's the easiest way to do that. Okay, remove the thrust from those. And then we're focusing on these. And then what if I... Remove from symmetry. And then delete it. See, what we want is the torque to disappear on this. But the problem is once we do that, we can't make it doubled. We need fine angle here. So yeah, I think this is what was causing our problemo. Get that as tiny as possible. But then the problem is now I need the second one. And it's gonna tell me 0 when it's not really 0. This is tricky. I don't know the best way to do this. I mean, surely that's pretty good, but it's impossible to tell for sure. If I remove it from symmetry, I can't add it back to symmetry either. I mean, that looks pretty good. The arrow is nice and I mean, the problem is if it's slightly off, I think that'll make the wobble that we've had. But we can always try it out and see if the wobble is reduced. Would you like a reduced wobble, good sir? Why, yes, I would. Thank you, good sir. All right, close the GUI. Close the fairing. Fix our staging, because we definitely just broke it. Yeah, that doesn't look right. That does that. And then this does that with the spin, and then that, and then the final one. Okay. All right, and this needs to go into polar. And that's literally it. Low polar orbit. It could be anything from there. So we'll save this. Simulate it. Simulate. All right. Now, if it's in a higher orbit, it will be able to be in contact more often with radio stations. Because when we're at like 145 kilometers, you're so close and tight to the planet that you don't get, you know, a good angle on these. You know, but if you're in a little bit of a higher orbit like this one, you know, you can contact one from further away. So let's see what kind of orbit MechJeb here thinks we can get into. So 111 coast stage 3. We don't really need a coast stage. Let's see if it thinks we can get into a 400 by 400 without any work. Maybe 782. And it is polar. About with a coast stage. With a coast stage, it thinks it'll be way more efficient, which you know, that makes some amount of sense because we've got a high insertion burn, so coasting there gives us a better angle. Let's try a coast of 60 seconds. 20 ullage lead time. Let's just see what happens. 3, 2, 1, launch. The worst thing that happens is it doesn't work. This is why we do simulations, right? Oh, I'm probably pitching over too fast. I'm guessing we're gonna need to redo that. Maybe not. And yeah, we're gonna need to launch at noon, so the sun will be right over the middle here. Actually, you know, I just realized having a coast stage means that my panels are gonna be better oriented, because it'll get me a few degrees more around the planet before we, you know, launch into the orbit, and that way the sun will be at a better angle. It's kind of interesting. Okay, so now we're coasting. There's our ullage. Is that gonna settle enough? Yeah, we are very stable propellant. And here we go. What happened there? That's what happened. Well, lesson learned. When you put your thrust limiter on 0, make sure to take it off 0 for your spin motors. LOL. Alright, you guys, please give me your thrust. Let's try that again. Everything else looked good, though. So I'm pretty sure we can just run it back. 1, 1, 1. Coast, 3. Done, done. Engage, launch. Alright, so... it actually seems like the pitch rate has been okay. It does get a little toasty for those solar panels, but they survive. And this thing seems very capable of keeping attitude control. And I mean, according to this, I've got a spare 780 Delta V to work with. So if we wanted to make this mission cheaper, we probably could. But there's something convenient about not having to retool everything. So this is a bit overkill. Okay, get at the proper angle for the launch. Ullage settles the propellants. Check. And the final boost, hopefully with spinning this time. It's still wobbly. Tried really hard to fix that wobble. I don't know if we can. We might need multiple... we might need more than 2 spin motors. Maybe the spin motors are the problem. Don't really know. Either way, this is gonna burn for a bit. And it will early cut off here. And that's pretty close, 382 by 414. Oh, we need eccentricity. Stupid. But then we've got this little guy, which has negative 215 watts. That's bad. Solar panel broken. What? What? Wait. How did it... okay. Why is the solar panel broken? That's interesting. This is why you simulate. The problem is I don't know what broke it. How does solar panel get broken? doesn't really tell me what would break a solar panel. Like, obviously, if it gets too hot and the part explodes, that's gonna break it. But what would break a solar panel without it being actually injured? Crap. Because it was even working... Is it this decoupler? It might have something to do with the decoupler, or it ran into something, or... Because I even looked at the solar panel when... Also, we need eccentricity. How much eccentricity do we need? Looking at my calculator... It doesn't calculate eccentricity. Why do I not have it calculating eccentricity for me? That's annoying. I need to add that to my measurer. Anyway, I'm just going to guesstimate that 350 by 700 is good enough. It might not be. But yeah, I'm actually really confused on why the solar panel was broken. I've never seen that before yet in the game, and I'm not really sure what did it. Target unreachable. That doesn't sound right. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's not correct. There we go. There we go. Yeah, I mean, changing that to 700 should only subtract a few delta V here. Once it figures it out. There we go. Okay, so let's try again, paying very close attention to these solar panels. I'm feeling like it has something to do with the decoupling, but I just don't know what happened. Let's see if we can figure it out. Because they're still working fine right now. Did they spin too fast? I mean, I've done spin stabilization with solar panels and they've worked fine in multiple launches before. So that can't be it. Oh, did my coast... Oh, my coast stage didn't work at all. Oh well. But they're still working. That is an eccentricity of only 255, so I need more eccentric than that. But the panels are still working. And now it's broken. What? Now one of them is working and one of them is broken? Alright. I'm guessing it has to do with running into the decoupler or something. I'll probably just offset it so that it doesn't run into it. I'll probably ask people in the Discord what exactly causes this. I think, based on what we've experienced and the fact that one of them is still working, I do think it has to do with, like, the decoupler ran into the side of one and that broke it and just decided to kill it. Because now we've got, I'm going to take a picture of this. Now we've got one working and one not working. Okay. Cool. Well, I'm going to call this an episode for now. This has been some good testing, and we'll work on getting this thing hopefully in space in the next episode so that we can actually get some good science return and a couple more contracts complete. Well, I guess this will be one contract. But awesome. Well, as always, thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I'll see you all in the next episode.